You might have often thought, what's the application of trigonometry? That's what we learned today. What all we can do with trigonometry? We can measure the height of a tower, the distance of a boat from the lighthouse. Also, we can measure the width of the river. In order to understand how we can use trigonometry, we need to understand some of the definitions. First one being the line of sight. The line of sight is a line joining the object to the observer's eyes. For example, the mouse is the object and the cat is the observer. So the line joining the observer's eyes to the object would be the line of sight. Similarly, let's take an example of an eagle and a snake. So eagle being the observer and snake being the object, the line joining the observer's eyes to the object would be the line of sight. Let's take another example. Assume person 1 standing outside a building and person 2 is on the third floor. They are looking at a hilltop, a red flag. Now line of sight for person 1 would be his eyes connecting the object. So the line of sight would be. Similarly, the line of sight for person 2 would be his eyes to the object. Definition 2, the angle of elevation. When the object being viewed is at a higher level than the level of observer, the observer has to raise the head to look at the object. The angle which the line of sight makes with the horizontal line drawn through the eyes of the observer is called the angle of elevation. I'll explain you with an example. Assume I'm looking at Qutub Minar. So when I'm looking at Qutub Minar, this is the horizontal line, and when I have to look at the top, I have to raise my head. This is my line of sight to look at the top of Qutub Minar. This is called the angle of elevation, the line of sight and the horizontal line. This angle is called the angle of elevation. Now, let's move on the third definition, the angle of depression. When the object being viewed is at a lower level than the level of observer, the observer has to bend his head downward to look at the object. Now, the angle that the line of sight makes with the horizontal line drawn through the eyes of the observer is called the angle of depression. I'll explain you with an example. Now, the line drawn from my eyes is the horizontal line. I'm looking at this book and I have to move my head downwards. So my line of sight would be this. The angle that this line of sight will make with this horizontal line will be called the angle of depression. Assume a girl at a 5th floor in a building. She's looking straight. This would be the horizontal line. Now, she's looking at her friend on the 1st floor of this building. So the line of sight would be this. The angle that this line of sight makes with this horizontal line is called the angle of depression. Now let's solve some problems and see how trigonometry is used. Problem 1. The angle of elevation of a jet plane from a point on the ground is 45 degrees. After a flight of 20 seconds, the angle of elevation changes to 30 degrees. Now the plane is flying at a constant height of 2000 meters. We have to find the speed of the jet plane. Now let's look at the solution. In the figure, let point K be on the ground, which is at a distance A from point T, which is perpendicularly below the initial position of the plane. After the flight of 20 seconds, it covers a distance B, right? From A to B, okay? Now in triangle AKT, tan 45 degrees would be AT upon KT, which is equals to 2000 by A, which is equals to 1, which brings us to A equals to 2000 meters. Right? Now let's move to triangle BKS. So in triangle BKS, tan 30 degrees is equals to BS by KS, which is equals to 1 by root 3. And in place of BS, we can put 2000. And in place of KS, it's A plus B, right? So 1 by root 3 is equals to 2000 by A plus B, which brings us to A plus B is equals to 2000 root 3. Now, we can take A to the other side So B is equals to 2000 root 3 minus A. Now we'll put that value there. And the equation would be B equals to 2000 root 3 minus 2000. We'll take 2000 common. So B is equals to 2000 bracket root 3 minus 1. Right? Now we have to take out the speed of the plane. So we'll put the formula for speed. Speed is equals to distance upon time. Now for us, distance is B, which we have identified as 2000 bracket root 3 minus 1. And the time given to us is 20 seconds. So the equation would be speed equals to 2000 bracket root 3 minus 1 by 20, which brings us to 100 bracket root 3 minus 1. We'll put the value of root 3 here, which brings us to 100 bracket 1.732 minus 1, which means 100 into 0.732. So the answer would be 73.2 meters per second. So the speed of the plane would be 73.2 meters per second. So today you learned about the application of trigonometry. And it was interesting, right? We can solve a lot of problems like that. And we will. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. See you soon.